Okay, so I've inserted two videos. One is very long, for which I apologize, but I would like you to listen to it. It's Marshall McLuhan, the preeminent scholar, I think, ever on media, mass media, and communication, talking about film, talking about other things, James Joyce novels. James Joyce, for those of you who don't know, was an Irish novelist writing in the early 20th century, several books, one called Ulysses, uh, that are deemed to be among the most brilliant novels ever written. He challenges the form of the novel, does a lot of new sorts of things um, with the novel. But do watch the video. You're not going to have a lot of other assignments this week. The second piece of video is actually also Marshall McLuhan on film, because he's actually on film in a Woody Allen movie called Annie Hall, which I believe won the Oscar for Best Picture that year. It's the only time I believe Woody Allen has done that. He's standing in line to watch a film with his new becoming girlfriend, Annie Hall, played by Diane Keaton. And someone in front of or in back of him is talking authoritatively and quoting Marshall McLuhan. And Woody Allen actually pulls Marshall McLuhan onto the screen and addresses the audience directly. He breaks character, in other words. It's pretty funny. It won't. It's just a few minutes, and please look at that too. Um, so moving right along here, folks. We're talking now about. So what is it? We're now talking about literally what is it? Okay. So this fellow named, I believe it was Edward Muybridge, um, used something called a zoopraxiscope, a magic lantern, in 1979 to produce the first motion picture. And this did not use electricity. This was something that was cranked, okay, because electricity really hadn't been tamed and put to use yet. That really happened towards the end of the 19th century, in the late 1800s. Muybridge was challenged. I believe he could win $25,000 if he could show that all 4 feet of a horse left the ground when the horse ran. So he took lots of pictures with a still camera and then put them together somehow so that it was, I think, about 25 images shown per second. And this, because of how we process pictures and images in our brains, turned into an actual film, the first film of a horse running. And here it, I don't think, yes, I do have it. Let's see if I can just play it here in the presentation rather than breaking for it. This is in 1878, and indeed there are some moments when all 4 feet are in the air, and whoever had placed that bet won the bet. I think it was Leland Stanford who placed the bet in California. He was a railroad tycoon in California. He founded Stanford University, and Edward Muybridge made the first film to help Leland Stanford win that bet. I'm going to try to advance things here. All right, so the illusion of films, as you can see here, is based on persistence of vision and the phi phenomenon. The first of these, the persistence of vision, as you can read here, causes the brain to retain images cast upon the retina of the eye for a fraction of a second beyond their actual disappearance from the field of sight. So this creates, the latter, the phi phenomenon, creates apparent movement between images when they succeed one another rapidly. So Thomas Edison then in 1893 had the first moving picture camera. And this used a continuous loop of celluloid film powered by an electric motor, lit by an incandescent lamp, so clearly electricity. Thomas Edison, I'd say, really the father of putting electricity to work in the world. You may know him as the inventor of the light bulb. He also was clearly an innovator in moving pictures, as we're discussing here. He also was an innovator in recording sound, making records, and other things. And he's the founder of a company called the General Electric Company, which is still a prominent and very large company involved in lots of different businesses, including making microwaves and lots of other electronic devices, jet engines. Moving picture was viewed through an eyepiece. The kinetoscope parlors became popular around the world and showed images of acrobats, music performers, and boxing. So this was a technology. It was not projected on a big screen to a bunch of people. This was each person going up to like a box and putting her head down and viewing into the box to see things move. So there were no stories being told, no narrative, just the thrill of seeing things come to life. So, I like definitions in terms of what is it. Cinema. The word cinema comes from the French cinematograph. Oh my gosh, I can't even say it. But it was coined by some innovators in film, the Lumiere brothers in the 1890s. It comes from the Greek word kinema for movement, and grapho for write or record. So it's about recording movement, cinema. Kinetic is another word that comes from the ancient Greek word kinema for movement, kinetic, about movement. Okay. Movement equals movie. I like the word movie, I think. I also like the word cinema, but I like the word movie, which is why I use the phrase movies move us for this presentation. So what else are movies? How else do we define it? Literally a sequence of still images projected at the rate of at least 24 frames per second, usually coupled with recorded sound. Although at the beginning they did not have a way to record sound and synchronize it with the visual. That was solved in the 1920s with the advent of talkies. And the recorded sound is synchronized with the visual such that a person can believe he or she is looking at a depiction of a real happening event. If I am in a movie theater, these images are big and have impact. Music may be added to the visuals and recorded audio to add another element. It's often done in movies. In fact, they give an Oscar for the best song, and I think the best score, if I'm not mistaken, movie score. A film is made by a film camera and sound recording devices that, working together, record actors or real people doing things. They record the images, and the sounds. Sometimes these things that the people are doing, or the animals or whatever's being filmed, are scripted beforehand and then reenacted by whoever's on camera. Sometimes these things are spontaneous and the camera is just observing real life, which is often the case with a genre called documentary. This is a film set. You see in the middle a fellow holding a pole with something fluffy on the top of it in white. That is a microphone. It's going to pick up the sound of the actors. And you see towards the right center a camera and a bunch of people around the camera, probably including the director and maybe the cinematographer. The cinematographer is responsible for the visuals in the film, for lighting and using the camera to help the director tell the story. The director is normally the person in charge on set of everything, and also usually in charge of the post-production, the editing of the film. Films are very expensive to make. I just want to make that point, particularly these days when CGI, computer graphic imaging, is added. Um, if you're involving a lot of movie stars, they have big salaries. They get percentages of the gross of what the movie makes, the revenue. Sets are expensive to make. Sometimes you're making miniature sets as well. You're adding effects. So movies these days can cost several $100 million to make, by the way, and then another 100 or so million for marketing and advertising. And of course, they're distributed all around the world, not just in the U.S. But anyway, so here you see. Now, I would think that the people, by the way, on the far left, covered by the umbrellas, are the talent, or the actors. Um, and it looks as if they're doing something Edwardian. I do see someone kind of in the very middle in the back wearing a white pith helmet, and it looks like some kind of military garb that they're getting ready to film. The people over on the right are other people probably involved with the production somehow. Not quite sure how, but anyway, here's a film set. Now, I'm going to bring up something very controversial that has just happened on a film set. Um, it's in the news today. Today is Wednesday, the 27th of October, and I'm sure everyone has read about this. Alec Baldwin starring in and producing a film called Rust, which is being shot in New Mexico. It's on the Bonanza Creek Ranch, and this is a place that's used for movies quite a bit. They've made some Western-looking buildings, including this wooden church, it looks like. And I'm sure they've got saloons and homes and streets, where people can draw their guns and shoot each other. And so the genre is Western, so normally involves a lot of shooting. And a very unfortunate accident happened here, where evidently the actor Alec Baldwin was rehearsing a scene where he was going to use a gun. The gun went off while it was in his hand. Evidently, he was told it was a cold gun, meaning it did not have real bullets in it, but somehow some kind of projectile he was aiming at the camera hit the cinematographer, a young 42-year-old, I believe, woman and mother. Also wounded the director, who I think was standing behind her. So some kind of projectile came out. And this is caused by the fact that, Alec Baldwin is reenacting a scripted scene with some shooting in it. Again, it's a Western. Westerns tend to have a lot of shooting. Lots of films have lots of shooting. Just saw a James Bond film a week or two ago, the new one. And I swear he must kill at least 300 bad guys via shooting in this film. It's shooting, 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 shooting. So much shooting. Anyway, very unfortunate accident on a film set. We don't know everything that happened yet. It's likely that there will be some kind of lawsuits brought, perhaps criminal charges against the producers of the film, of whom Alec Baldwin is one. Maybe the armorer who's in charge of the guns. We're not sure.